Today we're going to look at some of the best cases available for the Galaxy S24 Plus. There's quite a few cases that we're looking at in this video, but I have a feeling there may be a part 2. I'll leave a link down below with current pricing and more information for everything covered in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. The official silicone case from Samsung is probably going to be my favorite out of all these cases. The only downside is I'm not real fond of the color choices. The one I've got here is called yellow. It's a little too faded for my taste. It's actually fairly rigid for a silicone case, but probably the best part is the soft touch material that it's got on all sides, even on the power and volume buttons as well. Definitely one of the easiest cases to put on. Also has just enough screen protection in my opinion. You can see the power and volume buttons stick out plenty, so they're easy to locate. It's also got that soft touch material on it, and they've got some nice clickiness to them. Even though this is a fairly thin case, it still has decent protection for the cameras on the back. It's just a really nice clean design. Also has the Samsung logo there towards the bottom. Got a nice and large cutout for the charging port on the bottom. The case itself only weighs about 29 grams. It weighs in at 228 grams with the case on. And again, this is probably one of my favorite cases out of all these, mainly because of the grip that you get on all sides. Overall, just a really nice silicone case by Samsung. I'm not sure if you can improve on this case much other than color choices. And of course, it's gonna work with wireless charging. Probably my second favorite cases out of all these is going to be one very similar to the regular silicone case, but this is the standing grip case. They seem to have a little better color options for this one. This is more of the gray color that I wish they had on the regular silicone case. But as you can see, this one has a sliding silicone strap where you can put your fingers in there to kind of help you grip the case a little bit better. This one also is really nice and rigid. Doesn't really flex much at all. Pretty simple to put the case on. Has about the same screen protection as the regular silicone case, which is pretty good in my opinion. Power and volume buttons are covered by that silicone material, and they seem to stick out plenty, so they're easy to locate. The buttons are pretty nice and clicky as well. This one appears to be just a tad thicker than the regular silicone case, but it's got a nice oversized cutout for the charging port. The strap here on the back, when it's flat, it does stick out a little bit. It kind of adds a little more texture with that there. Design-wise, it actually looks really nice. For me, I don't feel like I would need the strap though. Seems to work fine with wireless charging, even with that strap on there. Weighs in at 51 grams, so as you can see, it's a little bit heavier than just the regular silicone case. Weighs in at 248 grams with the case on. Overall, just a really nice case here from Samsung. To me, the best part is the grippiness. It's just got that same silicone soft touch material as the regular silicone case. Now when it comes to the Shield case, I really like the design on this one, and it's pretty nice and rigid. The only problem I see with this case, the whole case is made of a hard plastic material, and I'm not really sure why they wouldn't put a softer material around the edges, because there's like no flex to this whatsoever. It's pretty simple to put the case on, and it has decent screen protection all the way around. They did a nice job with the power and volume buttons. They feel nice and clicky. You barely have to push the buttons to get them to work. Now this texture here on the back does help a little bit while you're holding it, and I really like the gray color, sort of matches the phone. But the grip on this, I know when I use this case, it just feels way too slippery. To me, all they had to do was make the sides a little bit softer, maybe use a more silicone material. It's got pretty good camera protection on the back, plus you can see it's got an extra bumper on each corner. Really nice and large cutout there for the charging port. Seems to work fine with wireless charging, even with these bumps here on the back. Weighs in at 43 grams for the case itself. Weighs in at 242 grams with the case on. Design-wise and functionality, this is actually a really good case. There's just not a lot of grippiness to this case, so just something to keep in mind with this one. The Poetic Neon case is probably one of my favorite cases from Poetic. It's a slimmer hybrid case where you've got a harder plastic shell on the back, soft silicone material on the inside. This one comes in two different colors, light pink, and the one shown here is black. This one also works with MagSafe accessories, also has military standard drop protection as well. Really easy to put this case on, and it's really tight. There's hardly any play on the sides. It's got nice screen protection all the way around. Power and volume buttons are covered by the silicone material. The power button feels a little soft, but still seems to work pretty good. But the volume buttons are nice and clicky. Extra large cutout there on the bottom for the charging port. It's a pretty thick case, so you have good protection against the cameras. The only thing I worry about a little bit is dirt and dust getting in that opening since it's larger than some of the other cases. Design-wise on the back actually looks really nice. I just wish they could do more color options, but overall it looks really nice. Also has pretty good grip on here. You can see the silicone parts that stick out. That also helps give it a little bit extra grip where you're holding the phone. And as you can see, pretty strong magnet there on the back, so it should work with most MagSafe accessories. The case itself weighs about 64 grams. Weighs in at 261 grams with the case on. Overall, just a nice, somewhat rugged case, but still fairly slim by Poetic. Now the Grip Coastal Blue case by Speck is probably one of the better ones out there as far as how much grippiness it has. Not only does it have the soft touch material on it, it's got all these ridges here on the back and on the sides as well. So yeah, probably one of the best as far as grip goes. Probably why they called it Grip case. Pretty rigid as well, doesn't really flex much. This one's a super tight fit, doesn't flex at all on the sides. Also has really good screen protection all the way around. I like how they made the power and volume buttons a different color, and they probably stick out a little more than most other cases that I've tested. Power button seems to work pretty good. Doesn't really make any noise though. Volume buttons have some nice clickiness to them. Pretty nice camera protection there on the back. Doesn't seem to have a lot of wasted space there as well. You've also got little plastic pieces on the corners. Definitely adds a little bit of drop protection. Probably one of the better ones as far as the charging port on the bottom. Just a really nice design with this case. And again, probably one of the best as far as grip goes. And I don't know if there's gonna be too many cases out there with better grip than this one. And of course, it's gonna work with wireless charging. Weighs in at 42 grams for the case itself. Weighs in at 240 grams with the case on. Overall, just a really nice case by Speck. Now, if you don't want to cover up the back of your phone, the Liquid Crystal Clear Case by Spigen, probably one of the best options out there. This one's made of a super flexible TPU material. Has just enough screen protection all the way around. The power and volume buttons have plenty of clickiness to them, even though they're covered by that squishy TPU material. Probably one of the better ones as far as the charging port cutout goes. Perfect cutouts for the cameras and flash on the back. Really nice and clean design to this case, especially if you don't want to cover up the color of your phone. Just has a little bit of branding there on the left-hand side. Only weighs in at 34 grams, so it's going to be one of the lighter cases out there. Weighs in at 231 grams with the case on. Overall, just a nice clear case by Spigen. And of course, it's going to work with wireless charging. Now, easily the thinnest case that I've tested so far is the Caseless Thin by Pitaka. Comes in two different colors, sunset, or the one shown here is black and gray. You can see the circle on the inside, which means this one's going to work with MagSafe wireless charging. Surprisingly, it's super rigid for being such a thin case. This is probably going to be the easiest case to put on. Now, as far as screen protection goes, you can see there's just a thin sliver there on both sides. It does have a nice cutout there for the power and volume buttons. Downside is there's going to be zero protection right there. Same thing with the top and bottom. You've got really nice and large cutouts. You don't have to worry about the case getting in the way. It's just not going to be a lot of protection. To me, this is probably one step better than using no case at all. You've got nice protection there for the cameras on the back. Feels like it has decent grip on it, almost a soft touch material. So it's definitely better than if you use this versus no case at all. Seems to have a nice and strong magnet there on the back for MagSafe wireless charging. This is probably the lightest case I've seen at only 21 grams. Only 218 grams with the case on. I will mention though, this case is a little tricky to get off because it's such a snug fit. So it's gonna take a little more effort to get this case off. Now, if you want something that's a lot more rugged to protect your S24 Plus, this Monarch carbon fiber case by UAG is actually a pretty nice option. It's got military grade drop protection. I believe this one's also available in red. The one here is just black and carbon fiber. Easily has some of the best screen protection. Might even be too much screen protection for some people. This one's super rigid, doesn't even budge at all. You can see the power and volume buttons are covered by a softer TPU material. The buttons seem to stick out plenty, so they're easy to locate. They also have some nice clickiness to them. Extra large cutout there on the bottom. Probably some of the best camera protection there on the back. Design-wise, I don't know if you can look more rugged than this one. Definitely has a military look to it. Also has a little texture here on the side to give it a little extra grip as well. It has a nice honeycomb pattern on both edges. Also has little bumps there on the back, so when you lay this down on a table, it doesn't rock back and forth. The case itself weighs about 53 grams. Weighs in at 251 grams with the case on. And even though this is a pretty thick case, it still works with wireless charging. If you want a fairly thin case, but yet still somewhat rugged, the Ringke Fusion X case is a pretty good option. You have two different colors. One is just clear on the back. This one here is called Camo Black. It's really nice and rigid. It has a harder plastic shell there on the back, but it's pretty soft here on the sides. This one does have a little bit of flex there on the sides. You can see it has really good screen protection on the corners, and then it tapers down quite a bit there on the sides. You can see it's got some really nice and chunky buttons. They're really easy to find, they've got texture on them, and they're probably some of the clickiest that I've used. Has a nice and large cutout there for the charging port. I kind of like this design with the camo look to it. Has a matte texture to it on the back as well. Really nice protection for the cameras and flash on the back. It's got little bumps here on the sides. It definitely gives it extra grip. And this one's pretty thin, so of course it's gonna work with wireless charging. Only weighs in at 31 grams for the case itself. Weighs in at 228 grams with the case on. Overall, just a nice rugged, thin case by Ringke. Now, if you want a clear case that has a built-in kickstand, this one's actually a pretty good option by ESR. It also has military grade drop protection. It's a super rigid case. Has a harder plexiglass material on the back, has really good screen protection, also has a little extra on the corners. Power and volume buttons stick out plenty with this one. Surprisingly, I think I like the buttons on this one better than the Spigen case. They've just got a little more clickiness to them. Also has a nice and large cutout for the charging port and speaker on the bottom. You can see the kickstand does make it stick out a little bit there towards the bottom, but design-wise actually looks really nice. Has pretty good protection for the cameras on the back. Does have a little extra space there though for the cutout, which could get dirt and dust and stuff in there. Got a nice and large cutout for the charging port on the bottom. It does take a little bit of effort to get the kickstand out, but feels like pretty good quality, and it gives you two different viewing angles. Actually seems to work pretty good with wireless charging. But keep in mind, because this sticks out down at the bottom, probably won't be able to use larger wireless charging pads. Only weighs in at 39 grams for the case itself. Weighs in at 236 grams with the case on. Overall, just a really nice clear case by ESR, which is gonna be great if you don't wanna cover up the back of your phone. Now this case here by Humix is actually pretty nice. It's got a soft touch material on the back and on the sides, with a harder plastic shell on the back, softer TPU around the edges. Pretty simple to put the case on. Does have a little bit of play there on the edges. It has really good screen protection all the way around. The power and volume buttons are covered by the TPU material, but they've got some really nice clickiness to them, and they seem to stick out just enough on the side so they're easy to locate. Extra large cutout on the bottom for the charging port, nice protection for the cameras on the back. And as you can see on the back, you can sort of see through it a little bit. And you can see it's also compatible with MagSafe wireless charging. Also seems to have a really strong magnet on the back. It's got a soft touch material all the way around. Feels somewhat similar to a silicone case. Weighs about 42 grams for the case itself. Weighs in at 241 grams with the case on. Overall, just a nice slim case, which feels like pretty nice quality by Humix. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.